Hey, it's Eric Olson here, and I want to share an incredible experience I had a couple days ago and what that tells me about our watershed, about the health of our community, and about some of the dynamic relationships that can occur when we have positive and regenerative relationships in our watershed. I know that's a lot. There's going to be a lot of information I'm going to cover here in just a few minutes. So just stick with me because it's worth it. So the other day, I was driving by this area. You can see the water right here. This is the floodplain of the Laguna de Santa Rosa, which is one of the watersheds that I live in. And I've lived here in this area for my entire life. And for the first time ever, I was driving by this area and I saw a bald eagle. Now, 10 years ago, we didn't have many bald eagles in Sonoma County whatsoever. And before that, there were no resident pairs of bald eagles for a very long time. Now, we have 10 resident pairs of bald eagles living in our county. Now, part of the reason why they died out before was because of the use of DDT in the apple orchards. Because the DDT would wash into the water like this, and fish would accumulate that poison, and then when bald eagles would eat those fish, they would be poisoned by the DDT and die off. So we've had this great resurgence of bald eagles in the last decade. So something amazing happened. The other day I drove by, and for the first time I saw a bald eagle right here. I got out of my car, and it swooped down and caught a fish. And then it landed in that oak tree right there and chomped the fish down. And it was amazing and beautiful, and I was grateful to be at the right time and at the right place. But here's what's so interesting is that now, coming back a few days later, this whole grassy area here doesn't have water on it anymore. When the bald eagle came the other day, this was covered in water. And when it swooped down to catch that fish, it looked like there was no effort. What I noticed was that it barely touched the water at all. I didn't even know it caught anything when it swooped down, but as it came back up, it had a fish in its talons. So here's what's important and magical about what this all means. First off, when the water comes up over this grass area, it's what we call floodplain connectivity. And that is when the main channel of a waterway, a laguna, a creek, a river, when that main channel floods over its banks and then floods out what's considered the floodplain, which is usually the flat kind of terraced area that is adjacent to our main waterways, creeks, rivers, lagunas. So when it floods over, it covers this entire grassy area here and connects the main channel of the waterway with the floodplain. Now here's what happens is that when the water floods into the floodplain, all kinds of grubs and insects and organisms that are in the soil come up out of the soil and come up to the surface of the water. Now this is vitally important nutrients for the fish that are living in the main stem of this laguna. So now that this is covered in water, the fish can swim out over the floodplain into these shallow waters where all these grubs and all these organisms are coming out of the soil and just munch and increase their body mass and have a delicious snack. So enters the bald eagle. So the bald eagle now takes advantage of the fact that these fish are in shallow waters in the floodplain and can easily, literally what seemed like no effort, swoop down, pick up a fish, and go eat it on the nice little oak tree over there. So I got to thinking about how just a few days ago, this was covered with water and this whole interaction occurred. The interaction between the fish wanting to swim up into the floodplain because of all the extra food, the interaction of the bald eagle making use of easy pickings of fish in shallow waters, and the connection between why we lost the bald eagles in the first place. Because the fish are the bioaccumulators for whatever is in the watershed. Now, this particular watershed, the Laguna de Santa Rosa, has many, many vineyards, all up and down the floodplain, as well as dairy farms. And 99% of those vineyards spray Roundup every single year in the wintertime, right as, usually in February, March, as vegetation starts growing up quickly, they spray hundreds to thousands of gallons of Roundup on their vineyards to control weeds. And all of that washes right into the laguna, right into the watershed, and those fish that are munching on floodplain grubs are accumulating whatever's in there as well. So now that bald eagle is going to get whatever's in that fish. Now, Roundup is not the devastation that DDT was, so that's the good thing, but it does have its cumulative long-term effects. So it's something that we need to be aware of the connections and the relationships that happen in our ecologies. It's not just humans living here. There's bald eagles living here. There's trout and salmon living here. There's all kinds of organisms living in the soil right behind me that provide for that. Everything is connected. Everything is in a delicate, harmonious relationship. And as humans, how we manage these watersheds, how we manage these floodplains, will have a massive impact on creatures all the way to the apex predator, like the bald eagle. So I just wanted to share with you the excitement of seeing the eagles come back, the aha moment of understanding how this floodplain connectivity during high rain events supports the fish and the eagles at the same time. And that just to have the curiosity when we see something like that, to have the curiosity of asking the question why a bird might do a certain activity, why a fish might go to a certain area, why some zone might get flooded at some times and be dry and other times, just to ask that question why, is to be implementing the core foundation of ecological design and permaculture, which is observation, which is listening, being open to nature showing us these beautiful connections and relationships that we can learn from. And as we learn from these beautiful interactions, we can mimic and implement them into our own human design system so that we can design regeneratively just like nature. Thank you so much. I'm Eric Olson. See you next time.